Two children vanish on a quiet Nova Scotia morning. A stepfather under a microscope. Files redacted. And a new detective told, "You're not cleared to see everything, yet." This is Dark Truths. Subscribe for deep, ethical true crime dives. Here, we separate fact from dramatization. Verified evidence where it exists, careful reconstruction where it does not. No speculation presented as truth. Pictou County, Nova Scotia. Rural lanes, dense forest, fields broken by scattered farmhouses. Along Gairloch Road, the scars of post-tropical storm Fiona still mark the land, fallen trees, tangled brush, the kind of terrain that can swallow a person whole. It was May 2, 2025. At approximately 10 a.m., two young children were reported missing from a quiet home in Lansdowne Station. By 12:25 p.m., the RCMP issued their first public notice. And before evening, a vulnerable persons alert was circulating across the province. The missing were Lily Sullivan, age 6, and her little brother Jack, just 4 years old. Lily, bright, gentle, and shyly independent, was last seen in a pink sweater, matching pants, and boots. Jack, energetic and dinosaur-obsessed, wore his favorite blue dinosaur boots. According to their parents, the children had been playing in and out of their bedroom. Then, sometime before 10 a.m., silence. A sliding glass door at the back of the house was believed to be the way out. At 10 o'clock, a call to 911, the children were gone. At first, police suggested they may have wandered into the woods. Abduction was not supported by evidence, but it was never fully ruled out. By mid-afternoon, the search was immense. K-9 units, ground teams, air support, and drones swept the dense forests. The public was urged not to join in, to avoid contaminating potential scent tracks. The children's mother gave her first interviews through tears, hopeful, but shattered. Within hours, vigils were forming, and the case was national news. Posters, candles, prayers. A community in shock. But behind the scenes, questions were already rising. Hours into day one, a new detective was quietly pulled aside. And in a hushed voice, came the warning, "We already suspect the stepfather, and no, you're not cleared to see everything." The woods of Pictou County had never seen anything like it. What little remains visible hints at cracks in his statements. Inconsistencies. A note scrawled in the margin, "Abduction not ruled out." Yet publicly, RCMP messaging remained careful, almost contradictory, leaning toward the theory of wandering, but never shutting the door on suspicion. Then came the surveillance. Investigators confirmed that Lily and Jack had been seen with family members on May 1, the day before they vanished. Exact location withheld. But privately, the stepfather admitted something more. Security footage exists from a nearby town. Clips that were reviewed internally but never released. He claimed they showed nothing unusual. Nothing publishable. And yet, no one outside law enforcement has ever seen them. Meanwhile, the interviews stacked up. 54 in all. Devices seized. Polygraphs administered. And while the public clung to those tests as truth, investigators knew better. Polygraphs are not lie detectors. They measure stress, not deception. At best, they point to pressure points in a story. At worst, they mislead. Still, Daniel sat for questioning. Outwardly, he appeared cooperative. But behind closed doors, analysts flagged stress markers. Nervous tics. Shifts in tone. Nothing conclusive, but enough to draw attention. The children's mother, meanwhile, wore her trauma in the open. Tearful pleas for their return. Flashes of hope colliding with waves of suspicion online. She became both a grieving parent and an unwilling target for those who saw guilt in her every word. And then, the detective. The one assigned to re-examine every detail. Caught in a maze of bureaucracy. Files missing. Reports sealed. Redactions layered so thick, evidence chains became invisible. The truth was in there somewhere, but buried under black ink and silence. Behind closed doors, an internal hearing took place. A prosecutor's voice, sharp, cutting through the quiet. Did you lie on your polygraph, Mr. Martel? Daniel's reply. Barely above a whisper, I'm just trying to protect. The sentence trails off. Ambiguous. Unfinished. And then, just when the trail seemed cold, an anonymous tip arrived. A voice, untraceable, said only, check Gairloch Road. The truth is buried there. A flashlight beam cuts across the dark. The anonymous call pointed investigators back to Gairloch Road. When a tip comes in, it doesn't just vanish into a notebook. Each one is triaged. Viability. Correlation. Geography. If it aligns with existing evidence, it moves up the chain. If not, it waits in a file. In late May and June, teams were quietly retasked. Crews returned to corridors already searched, dense thickets, storm-felled timber, areas thought to be cleared. The tip gave them cause. But there was another problem, one investigators never stopped warning about: the public. Well-meaning volunteers, combing the woods on their own, left behind traces that could ruin everything. A footprint here, a cigarette but there. Human scent that overwhelmed the dogs. Heat signatures that confused drone thermal sweeps. Every good intention risked spoiling the work of the professionals. Behind the scenes, the digital mountain grew higher. Hundreds of hours of surveillance video, gas stations, highway exits, corner stores. License plate canvases, doorbell footage, pipeline trail cameras. Each one had to be catalogued, logged, reviewed frame by frame. Every vehicle. Every timestamp. Warrants pulled cellular records, mapping who was on Gairloch Road, when, and why. The data points stretched into thousands. Cross-referencing was slow, and yet one missed ping could mean the difference between closure and silence. Politically, the case became unavoidable. The Premier of Nova Scotia went on record, thanking responders for their unrelenting effort. But not everyone was satisfied. First Nation leaders questioned why no Amber Alert was triggered that morning. Why thresholds so rigid they often silence the alarm until it's too late. That debate rippled through the province, amplifying distrust already simmering beneath the surface. The children were still missing. The search was still unresolved. While investigators sifted through hard data, the outside world built its own case, one headline, one rumor, one theory at a time. Mainstream media split the story into careful fragments. People. Global. The Guardian. Each outlet framed it differently: a mystery of vanished children, a story of procedural rigor, or a reflection on trust between a community and its police. But online, the tone was far less restrained. Facebook groups sprouted overnight, armchair detectives debating every photo, every rumor. Reddit threads unraveled into thousands of comments. Timelines were posted, updated, reposted again. And web sleuths communities attempted to stitch facts together, sometimes responsibly, sometimes not. Digital ecosystem became an echo chamber. Repetition hardened speculation into certainty. And certainty began to overshadow fact. Through it all, the family lived under a microscope. Every word, every silence, every look dissected in public the view. But here is the truth: no charges. No trial. Presumption of innocence still stands. Suspicion is not evidence. And grief is not guilt. Still, the missing pieces remain. Files locked away. Footage unseen. Reports blacked out in ink. So why the silence? May 2nd, 2025, the children are reported missing. Alerts ripple out. The largest search in Nova Scotia in years begins. Between May 3rd and May 7th, resources peak. Helicopters, drones, ground grids. A single boot print becomes the focus. By May 7th, the operation scales back. Late May, RCMP confirmed the children were seen alive with family on May 1st. The exact location is withheld. June 11th, the RCMP releases its intensive approach. 54 interviews, multiple polygraphs, device seizures, and a growing mountain of digital evidence. By July 16, the numbers swell. 600 tips. Nearly 5,000 video files. Yet no resolution. No answers. And so, theories harden. 1. The children wandered into the dense terrain, succumbing to the woods. This was the RCMP's earliest working model. 2. The possibility of third-party involvement. No proof. But never ruled out. Major crime continues to keep the door open. 3. A darker idea, family-adjacent knowledge. A theory whispered, speculated on, but without public evidence. And without charges. But here's the hard truth, police don't share everything. Not to the press. Not to the public. And sometimes, not even to their own investigators. Files are withheld to protect witnesses. Leads concealed to prevent contamination. Certain truths locked away to keep out false confessions, or to preserve a case that one day might see a courtroom. But to the families left waiting, and to the communities desperate for closure, the silence is unbearable. Somewhere between what's redacted, and what's real, lies the path back to Lily and Jack. As of today, August 19, 2025, the case of Lily and Jack Sullivan remains unsolved. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police insist the investigation is active, with officers continuing to follow up on new tips, review evidence, and appeal to the public for assistance. No arrests. No trial. No closure. This is where we must pause, and draw a clear line. Everything dramatized in this story is labeled as such. The facts, the boot print, the surveillance footage, the timeline of searches, the RCMP updates, are sourced directly from official statements, court filings, or credible reporting. The rest is the shadow space where investigators work, and where the public speculates. And so, we must repeat what the law requires: every individual named remains presumed innocent. No charges have been filed. No guilt has been proven. What is certain is that someone knows something. And silence only deepens the mystery. If you were in Pictou County, on Gairloch Road, Lansdowne Station, or near New Glasgow, on May 1st or 2nd, 2025, and saw anything that could help, you are urged to come forward. Call the Pictou County District RCMP at 902-485-4333. Or contact Crime Stoppers anonymously at 1-800-222-TIPS, or through the P3 Tips app. For the rest of us, the responsibility is different. Share official posters. Amplify verified appeals. And resist the temptation to spread unverified claims, no matter how convincing they seem in a Facebook post or Reddit thread. Rumors bury the truth deeper. Because at the heart of this case are two children. 2 empty beds. 2 pairs of boots by the door. And a community that still wakes every day without answers. If the files stay redacted, the forest will keep its secrets. But truth has a way of finding light. Dark truths. Subscribe to help keep pressure on cold cases. Comment respectfully with sourced insights.